Now on the air from the state of Florida, where our 45th president temporarily resides until his triumphant return to that big house on Pennsylvania Avenue in 2024. Once again, it's time for the Flagler Trump Club's Future of Flagler podcast. Here are the three patriots who will keep Flagler County red while making America great again. Your host, Trump Club President Mike McElroy, along with Trump Club Vice President and Palm Coast City Councilman Ed Danko, and Trump Club Board Director, better known as the Shadow Mayor of Palm Coast, Alan Lowe.
Hey everyone, it's Ed Danko. I want to welcome you to the Flagler Trump Club Future of Flagler video podcast. We got a great special guest today, but before we get to that, I'm here with my co-host, Alan Lowe. Say hello, Alan.
Hello, Alan.
I'm doing good. Our other co-host, Mike McElroy, is still out visiting his family on the West Coast. He should be back here in 2 weeks for our next video podcast. Before we start, I just want to thank our sponsors, our supporters, Twisted Minds, and also Cypress Knolls Golf Club. Yes. All right, so before we get into what we're doing today, I just want to show you folks a couple of things. As we all know, Alan is soon not to be our shadow mayor, but soon to be our mayor.
We might have to change the intro.
We'll have to change the intro. We'll get that reworked on. But right now, both Alan and I have been out knocking on doors. We have been doing this now for 7 days straight.
And we're well past 2,000 doors at this stage.
Past 2,000 doors. If you folks find, let me find the camera right there. If you folks see one of these hanging on your door, that means we probably missed you. You weren't home. Otherwise, we'd hand it to you. But we are out handing out these this information on Alan. Please take a look at it. We'd appreciate your support. It's going to be a low voter turnout.
I hope they all do vote for Lowe.
They all will vote. Yes, exactly. But we're not expecting a lot of people.
And let's tell them also the dates. The early voting date is July 17th to the 24th.
That's correct.
And I got to memorize.
You got to memorize.
And the last day for voting will be July 27th.
July 27th. That is Election Day. There's a lot of people in the race. You'll have a lot of names to choose from, but we're hoping that things like this get your attention. So before we move on to our guest today, a little breaking news. This headline, here I'll hold it up to the camera, from this so-called local newspaper. I saw Alan sort of make a grunt. Shows that our city manager, Matt Morton, resigned 9 days after our mayor, Melissa Holland. And I'm not sure what's up with that, but we're going to be asking our guests.
Before we go there.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yes, do that.
As the Flagler Trump Club, but also as our podcast, we welcome people to our show. But we want to say that the opinions and comments of our guests are not necessarily represented or represent the opinions of the Flagler Trump Club, nor Ed, nor I.
Thank you very much for that disclaimer. On that note, sitting next to me.
Because this could be a controversial show.
This could be. Sitting next to me is Jay Maher, the former compliance manager for the city of Palm Coast. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you.
So, Jay, first, you worked for the city. What do you think of this headline, Morton resigns? What do you think of the timing?
I think that's the best thing that's happened to the city in years.
You do?
Oh, yeah. It's going to, hopefully, with Denise in place, it's going to return ethics and integrity to City Hall, which has been lacking ever since he's been there.
Can you expound upon that?
Oh, I could for hours.
For hours.
Hours.
We have a little while.
Do you have enough time?
Well, let's just so folks know, and I want to make sure I get this correct, when you were our compliance manager, you were the one that did file the ethics complaints with the state. Is that correct?
Yeah, I conducted the internal investigations regarding the mayor's corruption, Matt Morton's corruption, other council members' corruption, and turned everything over to the Ethics Commission as well as several other law enforcement agencies.
Well, before we go further than that, though, just to show the strength of what he's talking about, what is your background?
I am a retired detective sergeant. Down here, they're called detective sergeants. In New York, I was actually a sergeant special assignment. My specialty was homicide investigations and violent gangs and racketeering cases. I retired out. I was assigned to the FBI's Organized Crime Task Force as a group leader. I'm a 9/11 first responder. I responded to the towers on 9/11. I spent some time working there, digging. And soon after that, I was reassigned. My entire team was reassigned to the terrorist task force doing narco-terrorism cases. We actually did one successful case prior to my retirement on a Hezbollah cell in Jersey City, New Jersey. My retirement was pre-planned and was actually held up after 9/11. I had moved my family down here just because I wanted a better life back in June 2001. And I intended to come down in January 2002. And it got pushed back several months because of 9/11 and things I was involved in. I was doing deep cover cases I couldn't walk away from. And finally, I retired and came here.
So you came here, you got a job with the city of Palm Coast as the compliant manager. You filed some ethics complaints.
How long were you employed with Palm Coast?
I was an employee of City of Palm Coast for 18 years in good standing.
Okay.
All right, 18 years. So
I was actually selected to head up their ethics program.
So you file these complaints against Matt Morton, against some others, against some council members, I understand. Mm-hmm. I wasn't one of them. I wasn't on council then, folks. So
plausible deniability.
Yeah, plausible deniability. But at a certain point, though, the pressure was turned up on you, and you...
It came to light that I was doing these investigations, and suddenly I was under the spotlight, and I was being targeted by labor attorneys hired by Matt Morton and Bill Reichman. In fact, one of them, they claimed to be an independent investigator, was in fact a part of Bill Reichman's office and still appeared on the city website, even during the time he was coming after myself and several other whistleblowers. I was subjected to hours and upon hours of interrogation, which was on completely contrived and made up issues coming from Matt Morton. And finally, when I was served by Renina Fuller with the last investigation, I read this document, and it was completely false. And I said, you know something? I had this conversation with my wife. I don't need this anymore. I'm going to retire early. I had no intention of retiring. In fact, I had a succession plan in place with people that were going to be trained to do what I was doing. But that day, I told the director I was retiring. I sent an email, and I gave him my 10 days notice, and I thought I retired. And then a week after I retired, I found out Morton had this attorney and Renina Fuller fire me retroactively 1 week to my retirement date.
How do you fire someone after they retired? I've never heard of something like this before.
You see, it's not unusual in this. I mean, look at what they did to a candidate for mayor. They accused him of sexual harassment based upon complete falsification. No facts whatsoever. 6 months after he left, while he's a candidate for mayor, Morton files an internal case, and they go along with that, and it was false, also completely false.
And I assume you're talking about Michael Shoddy.
Yes. And Debbie from HR. I mean, that whole thing, parts of those affidavits, I was present for. It didn't happen. And there's also communications showing that the attorneys were trying to encourage witnesses to sign affidavits to track with Matt Morton's memory. In other words, not their memory. You need to track with Matt Morton's memory.
Interesting.
Yep.
So where do you think all this is headed?
Based upon current recent events, I'm hoping that it's heading down the path it should have headed down a year ago. Some things take time. Investigations take time. But if you watch what's going on right now, there's absolutely things that happen that triggered these things.
Well, let me ask you something real quick. During the campaign, the last mayoral campaign, I had mentioned that there was possible FBI investigations, FDLE investigations, and ethics complaints because I picked that up out of the newspaper. Are you aware of any of those complaints?
The ethics case I filed. The state attorney's case I filed. I was in conversation with the chief investigator who had forwarded it to FDLE. That's where I lost that part of the state attorney's case going into FDLE, but I was told that they were waiting for the outcome of the ethics case. As far as the other gentlemen are concerned, my former employers, I only can tell you that I've been interviewed by them. So has many employees.
When you say former employers, you're talking about the guys with the cards and the badge that has 3 letters on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be FBI.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So maybe I wasn't lying.
Maybe.
No, neither was Mike Shoddy. And the crazy thing is that even at the time, but especially now, Morton knew you weren't lying either. and so did Mayor Holland. Both of them knew those comments by Mike Shoddy and by you were accurate. In fact, recently it came to light that those two said they were going to destroy Michael Shoddy's life in front of witnesses. And those witnesses, I understand, are talking to authorities.
Well, they attempted to destroy mine, too, while I was running for mayor at the time. But lies don't last long.
Tell me
Truth
about it.
always surfaces.
The stuff that has come out of the city manager's office is bizarre. The things that have been made up in that office and cast about. I found out I was having an extramarital affair. I was shocked when I found out, and apparently the woman that was having it was shocked as well.
So how's that affair working out for you?
Unbelievable.
Crazy.
Unbelievable.
But to repeat that to elected officials, to attorneys, to residents, to employees, just pull it out of wherever, completely false. But that's what Morton's thing is, character assassination. Two things, actually. What's that called? There's two things that he's expert at. One is character assassination. He just makes things up and just casts them. I've heard of things he's made up about sitting council members. Really horrific accusations that he then tells everybody around him, even though there's no basis in fact. It makes you wonder if there's not something else going on there, that you can actually do that. Most people, normal people, can't make up lies about individuals' lives, really horrific ones, and then spread them like they're truth. There's something wrong there.
Well, unless you're watching CNN or MSNBC.
Well, there are exceptions.
There are exceptions, of course, or reading the New York Times.
Gaslighting, that was the term I was
Gaslighting.
That
He is
yes,
an expert
yes.
at gaslighting.
So
Expert.
You confronted Morton directly on a lot of these things, I assume.
I was actually the problem with ethics in the state of Florida is, in order to be protected under the ethics laws of Florida, you're required to notify the CEO. The CEO, if the CEO is corrupt himself and part of the scam, you have to actually go to him and tell him this is going on. So what happens?
And in this case, Mr. Morton was the CEO?
He's the CEO of the city.
Right.
So I had to actually go send him an email telling about everything that was going on. And what that did was brought down the full force of the law, not even our own law department. They went out and got other attorneys to come after me for nonsense. I had this funny conversation, actually, regarding withholding of emails. An email is sent by the mayor using her city email, her city title, to another city, identifying herself as the city of Palm Coast mayor and making a sales pitch for her private employer. And I was told that's not a public record, and they withheld it. So I had this whole conversation with an attorney that, I kept saying to him, have you seen the email? And he said, yes, I did. And you will tell me it's not a public record. And dead silence.
Wow.
And he said, well, I really can't tell you that. Well, in his ruling, he found out that I was wrong. That is ridiculous. Anybody will tell you those were public records. They were evidence of corruption, absolutely. And that was only the tip of the iceberg.
Well, hang on to that thought. We're going to take a break and hear from our wonderful supporters out there, our sponsors. We'll be back in a few moments with our guest, Jay Maher, former compliance officer for the city of Palm Coast.
Are you twisted enough for Twisted Minds escape rooms? Then check us out at twistedminds.com and book an adventure today. You can choose between Camp Calico or the mysteries of Vanished. How about travel back in time to 1840s California and visit Digger's General Store? Or get ready, coming late spring, early summer 2021, a little bit of mayhem at Twisted Minds escape rooms in Palm Coast. Check us out at twistedminds.com or give us a call at 888-92-TWIST. We'll be waiting.
Tired of sitting at home restless? Need to exercise? Playing golf is one of the best ways to stay fit, and golf courses are one of the safest places to be. The gorgeous 18-hole Gary Player designed Cypress Knoll Golf Course is open to the public. Enjoy your game in the heart of Palm Coast, surrounded by 9 glimmering lakes and plenty of wildlife. Your safe and healthy choice is Cypress Knoll Golf, voted the most beautiful course in Flagler County. Call to book your tee time, 437-5807. That's 437-5807.
Hey, I want to thank our supporters out there. Without their generous donations, this video podcast would not be possible. If you're interested in supporting this video podcast, please get in touch with us at the Flagler Trump Club. You can go to our website, flaglerfortrump.com.
Yes, Flagler, the number 4.
That's the number 4, not the word 4. And you can find out how to get in touch with us. We certainly welcome your support. Anyway, we're back here with our guest, Jay Maher. Did you have a question, Alan?
Well, Jay, this whole thing is going crazy at the moment at City Hall, and we need strong leadership to bring it forward. In your opinion, I mean, you've seen this coming. Are you surprised by the resignations that you've seen?
No, and I think there's going to be a few more coming very soon.
You think there's more resignations coming? Wow.
I mean, you're a former cop. Mm-hmm. You've done a lot of investigations. I don't believe in coincidences. Do you?
Well, I have to tell you, I said this on another interview. My background is in organized crime investigations. This organization, more and more, I actually joked about it with some of my former colleagues. I feel like I was investigating organized crime again. They were doing things that organized crime would do to cover their tracks, including changing the way that they would communicate as to not come across public records.
What do you mean by that?
Nothing in emails. They didn't want anything in emails. Text messages they don't have when you ask for them. Walk-in talks around the lake.
Walk-in talks. What's a walk-in talk?
Walk-in talk was when we did mob cases, we would have electronic surveillance. And this was before the technology they have today where they can actually pick up those conversations where you're walking and talking. And basically, they leave the building, they walk around and talk. And the reason they're talking outside and away from earshot because they don't know who's cooperating, and away from the building because they don't know if there's electronic surveillance. So they do walk-in talks. And, I mean, it's just ridiculous because it's a lot of things they did are exactly what organized crime would do. The disappearance of Mayor Holland, I've heard that it's related to her daughter.
And if it is, I wish her all of the...
Me too, absolutely.
All of the best.
But the sudden disappearance and knowing how she dealt with the really horrific things she was going through during the election and stayed on board, I have to tell you, I doubted that that's really why she left. But then for Matt Morton...
9 days later.
And pretty much panicked. If you watch his behavior, even his behavior during the city council meeting, he's beside himself. He's been told something, I think, that shook his world. So he's leaving. And I hope everything that I think is coming comes to fruition because he deserves every bit of it. He has actually damaged and ruined people's lives.
There was a gentleman at the last city council meeting. Yes.
Jason wasn't resigned. It's sort of a joke. People are resigned all the time. It's a term that we would use. Resigned are these folks that would leave the city with a resignation without a job to go to. They would sign an agreement not to speak about it, and they would be given a large buyout. Now, number one, who resigns from a good, well-paying job without a job to go to? Number two, who gets bought out when they resign? Who gets given money when they resign? So in reality, what was going on is those are people that either pushed back or weren't moving fast enough for the mayor in the projects she was trying to push. And
do you think the mayor was directing staff and bypassing the city manager?
I know the mayor was directing staff. I know that for a fact, and so does authorities, and they have evidence of it.
Can you talk about any of the evidence, or?
There's communications where certain key people that are still in the city are mentioned the mayor giving them direction.
Wow.
There was several witnesses that regarding the official bid that was out there, the RFP, the interference with that, the interference with the Gartner study by not only the mayor but some other people outside the city who had an interest in the software. There has been interference since day one. And I used to think it was because of where Mr. Morton came from. Matt Morton came from an organization where it was not a strong mayor organization. So basically, he was almost like the mayor's, I mean, it was a strong mayor's organization. So he was almost like the mayor's assistant. So it was okay in that type of world. But when he came here, he just stayed doing the same thing, allowing her to run the city. And I imagine the reason Jim Landon is gone is because he pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, and he was a problem, and they couldn't move forward with him there. So they got rid of him and found this guy.
Wow. Do you think we should change our charter and have a strong mayor in Palm Coast, or do you think we should keep the present situation? You have any opinion on it?
Not really, because I really don't. I'm apolitical. That's the crazy thing about this whole thing. I've been drawn into all these different political conversations. Mm-hmm. I'm a public servant, and I've served for 21 years and 18 years. I've not been a political person. I was forced into politics of this simply because of a corrupt administration, and I'm left over from. I had a job to do investigations. We did them well. 129 cases, everything from theft of time, theft of money, embezzlement, you name it. We've done these cases. What we did was we went back and changed the system so those things couldn't happen again, which is what my project was. Suddenly, the administration I'm working under is gone, and a corrupt administration comes in. And my cases go from low-level employees now to the top of the organization. So I found out that I overstayed my welcome. They did not want oversight. But the crazy thing is, Morton was so disengaged, he really didn't even know what I did.
He didn't know what you did.
Well, he knew I did a lot. I don't blame him for that, because I actually had like different hats I wore. I did contractor issues, I did tax issues, and I did internal issues. But I flew under the radar and watched and collected the data and turned it over all along. Anything I was ever given was turned over.
Wow. So, this week we've all heard about the secret naughty citizens list, whatever you want to call it, enemies list. I made a motion this week at council that we cease immediately using that list until we need to come up with a different way of protecting our employees and allowing folks who might get placed on a list some due process and an opportunity to defend themselves. A lot of people have asked me about the history of this list. Where did it come from? How did it start? I've heard of a couple of things, but I'm just curious. Do you have any light you can shed on this list?
I know it started. The involvement I know is that it was from an HR director in Landon's administration.
Under which mayor?
It would be Holland, I believe. I believe it would be Holland. Would it be 16? Would that be Holland?
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
I've also heard them saying that I created it.
I've heard that.
Did you create that secret list?
And I had no control over it either. The only times I was aware of it is when they added somebody to the list, they would send out an email saying this person's been added to the list.
To all people or directors?
No, I thought it was to all employees, just to warn them.
Okay.
But the reason I know about the list, of course, is a local nut job that unfortunately I had the displeasure of dealing with over the years that made false allegations against me for like a dozen years, and other employees who actually threatened code enforcement and threatened myself. There was police reports for I don't know if it is for the code enforcement, but for mine there was police reports. Those people, you have to let the employees know that these
I agree,
exist.
And we have to protect our employees, and I said that at council, but I think we need to come up with a better way of doing it.
But I had no idea.
Because
I had nothing to do with it.
There was a Daytona News Journal story where there was a guy with a Trump sign in his yard, and he argued with the code enforcement.
Whose administration was that during?
Well, that was
just recently.
Just recently
So
under Holland.
And Morton.
Yeah,
Yes.
and he argued with the code enforcement person, and I guess they exchanged a few words, and then he had to move his sign back 15 feet or
15 feet
whatever.
from the road,
Right, which is fine.
I remember a couple.
But
that
he gets
stood
on
out.
this list over a Trump sign.
I remember the spear one. That one stood out in my mind.
I
Like,
bet.
who the heck
Yeah.
threw a spear at a city worker?
Yeah.
You
Now,
know,
that should have been turned over to the sheriff's office, not put on a naughty list.
my understanding, Dave Williams was the commander at the time. First, I worked with Mark Harmon. Mark Harmon had an office right next to mine. And then Dave Williams came in, they moved him into HR. But I'm pretty sure that the sheriff's office, at least the commander located there, was aware of this. Probably didn't think anything about it other than you're trying to protect residents. But I'm pretty sure that they knew about it.
Did they know about that? Well, and they should. Things like that are what people should know about. Somebody flipping a code officer the bird shouldn't get them on a naughty list.
No.
But
Somebody throwing a spear should get them on
100%,
some kind of a list. I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
So Jay, what are you doing now? What's up with your life now? I assume you're not done with dealing with this city issue. I assume you still have issues.
I'm waiting
with
to
the
see what
city.
happens before. There may be a lawsuit coming actually from several former employees.
Okay. But
and
you yourself right now are involved in other things.
in about the same time that I left the city, I was approached by a major film company to sell my life rights related to a case I did in New York. And for the last year, I've been working with them on a miniseries. And so I guess I'm employed.
So you're a movie star.
No, they actually, the contracts name me as an artist.
Oh,
So who are they getting to play you? Who's the actor that gets to play you? Or
I
are
don't
you at
know
that
because
point?
I had to send them period pictures from back then of myself and my team. It's going to be interesting, and I mean it's foreign to me, and it is not labor intensive whatsoever. Everything is by Zoom, you know. I mean,
Oh, really? Wow.
yeah, pretty much because part of the folks I'm working with are in California, and the other part are in Baltimore. So all the meetings are late in the evening, and they take about an hour or two. And really, all I'm doing is I'm telling the story.
who was it that played Kojak?
Telly
Terry
Savalas.
Savalas.
Telly Savalas.
Yeah,
So
Telly
that should
Savalas.
be who you have. I can see you walking around.
I
like
just
that.
can't wait to see what the end product is. I really can't. And it's a major production company. It's not like an independent company. They're who I'm in contract with are major film and television producers.
That's got to be very exciting.
Yeah, it is. My
Yeah.
wife thinks I'm a little crazy because she sometimes overhears the Zoom conversations.
Well, listen, I want to thank you for dropping by today. We're just about out of time, and I want you to keep us updated with anything you hear about the city or, with the movie thing, too. We want to hear about
Sure.
that. And anyone out there, Matt Morton, if you're watching, if you want to come on our show, we'll be happy to put you on our show, and you can respond to Jay. We're
Could I
not
come on that show too?
Yeah, well, you
would
if he
like
would
to,
if he
sure.
would sit down with you, we would just sit here and watch and let
Yeah,
you guys
we'd just sit
discuss
back and
things.
enjoy the show.
We're not here to pick
I
sides.
think I need to talk to the attorneys first.
Yeah, we're not here to pick sides.
No, not at
but-
all.
But anyone else,
Just to get
Michael Shoddy,
information.
if you'd like to come on the show, we'll have you on. Just let us
Yeah,
know.
of course.
Folks, I want to remind you to visit our Trump Club website. That's Flagler, number 4, not the word 4, flaglerfortrump.com. Our meetings are every third Monday at the VFW in Palm Coast off of Old Kings, every third Monday, starting promptly at 6:30 p.m.
And you need to come early because we are packing the place.
Oh, we're filling up. It's amazing.
Yeah, how many members do we have?
We
now?
have over 550 members.
Amazing.
I know it is, and it keeps growing and growing and growing.
Largest club in Palm Coast, right?
I would
The
think
largest-
so. Yes,
yeah.
in Flagler County.
Flagler County.
We're working on some events. We've got some events coming up that we'll be announcing soon.
Some really great ones.
Great ones. But anyway, please come visit us. Come to our Trump Club meeting. And I'm going to, basically leave you with that. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Again, I want to thank our sponsors, Twisted Minds and the Cypress Knolls Golf Course,
Yes.
for making this broadcast possible. And that's it for now. Alan, you have anything else?
No, I thank you, Jay, for coming
Thank
on. And like Ed said, if anybody else would like to come on and rebut anything that Jay said or sit down here with Jay and have an interesting discussion,
Yeah,
welcome.
We'd be glad to have you. All right, folks, you have a great week, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
The Future of Flagler is sponsored by the Flagler Trump Club. Our meetings are every third Monday, starting at 6:30 p.m. at the Palm Coast VFW. Visit our website, flaglerfortrump.com. That's Flagler, the number 4, Trump.com to learn more. Let's make America great again.